Hello there.
I love the music. See, I don't want to show you. I had a little mishap with my beard trimmer. Ah! It'll grow back, but it'll take a little while.
It will.
I went and trimmed it, and all of a sudden it's down to the skin. I said, oh no. Okay, well, I had no choice but to shave the rest of it off because it would look pretty silly with one stripe of skin there. So,
don't worry about it.
Anyway, well, happy Sunday, everybody.
Yes, and happy
Hanukkah. It's Sunday, right? It's Sunday.
Sunday. That's right. It's really Sunday.
It is Sunday.
We are recording this on Sunday night, which is why Mel's sitting here in a robe.
No, we are recording it early because we have had such good luck the last couple of weeks recording it early that I think this is the way to go because we're not having the technical problems and so forth that we were having trying to do the show live. So
there obviously are a lot of...
I think doing it later in the evening like we are doing it, it's better because there's not so much Wi-Fi traffic. I think it's a little better this way.
I think a lot of people are doing it Sunday, so, you know.
There's a lot of podcasts that come out on Sunday.
Yep. Well, that's when a lot of people have, the day off, so they record then. I must, we're going to get to more serious issues in a moment, but I saw a film that is now currently streaming on various platforms. And I want to recommend it. It's called, okay, what is it now? Journey to Bethlehem. And I saw the title of that.
I think I heard about that.
Yeah, I saw the title of it and I just went. But the trailer actually was very attractive. The music was good. The acting seemed good. It had Antonio Banderas in it, and which suggests the script's okay. And I was amazed actually. The arrangements of the music very strong. Some of the songs are not as up to the level as they should be, but some of them are quite excellent. The acting is good. The script is pretty good. And what I really liked about it is there's a lot of humor. And also the central person in the story is Mary. Mary's the one going, hey, I gotta do what? So that's not something you see often in those films. So now, I do recommend it.
Is this the one where they've taken the story and modernized it?
No.
Okay, because I saw there was one that they were coming out with, and they took it and made it in present day.
No. This is all set at the time it is supposed to be set. It is, however, a more modern approach.
Interpretation?
Yes. And the characters are it's more realistic. That is how a young woman would behave if told, you know, guess what? So you're not going to have behavior that you see in a lot of those films. But this is a good film. It has humor in it, but it's never mocking. It doesn't make fun of anything. It just sort of points out that the idea of these kings from these three kings going and finding a baby out in the middle of nowhere and trying to find it. Yeah, that's funny in and of itself. So there's a lot of humor in it, but it's respectful humor. And I thought the music by itself was good. So, if you're hyper religious and very set on certain concepts in it, you may not want to see it. But if you normally aren't a big fan of religious epics, you might want to give this one a try because it's very much in season. It's in the spirit of the season, and I think you'll like it. All right, my review.
Well, since we're on the subject of Christmas, one thing I wanted to bring up, I happened to spend the day at Disneyland and California Adventure today, as I do a lot of Saturdays. And I couldn't help but notice that Disneyland had taken several religious holiday songs and edited the religion out of them. I know one of them was "O Holy Night," and one of them was, I think it was "O Little Town of Bethlehem," but I'm not positive. But there were at least three songs that the basis of the song is Christ and religion. And Disney put other words in there, or the artist, I'm sure at the behest of Disney, put other words in there so that it wasn't religious. And Disney, I didn't see the word Christmas anywhere in the park. I'm sure maybe somewhere it's someplace. They have it on shirts and Christmas and mugs and things like that, but not on signs or anything. This is the Festival of Holidays.
So
it
why
is
can't
not
we mention all
Christmas.
the holidays? Let's have
I don't know.
Let's have a little gathering about Hanukkah, and let's have one on Kwanzaa, and leave the Christmas ones where they are.
I mean, they do the candlelight procession, which I would have liked to have seen how they handled that, because they always have a cross up behind the people that are. Now, I'm sure that's been removed, but I didn't see it. I've only seen it one time. That was the year they had Edward James Olmos there, and that's the only time I've seen it. So I'm not sure what they did. They had a young lady doing it this year. I forget. She was one of the Marvel films, the actress, I think, in one of the Marvel films. And now, don't get me wrong. Disney has the right to do what it's their park. They have the right to do whatever they want to do.
Not if they're taking money from the public.
Well, what I don't understand, though, is there are hundreds of non-religious Christmas songs out there. Tons of them. And they play most of those at the park, especially at California Adventure.
Oh, yeah.
they play all the 50s rock and roll Christmas songs, like Rocking Around the Christmas Tree and all of that stuff. So why take a song that is a religious Christmas song and edit the religion out of it? That would be the same as taking some other religion song and editing their religion out of the song. It's just something they should not do.
It also is largely done talk to anybody who's who reads a lot of intelligence-related material, and they'll tell you that was done to cause friction in our communities. And, nobody gives a damn. Jewish people are so used to Christmas. I mean, Hanukkah isn't even that big a deal in Judaism. It's not. It's not one of their high holy days. It's not a big shot thing. And they've sort of had to elevate it in order to contend with, the massive thing which is Christmas. But they should just leave them alone and let them live next door to each other the way that we do.
I have no objection if they want to take a day or a week or something and celebrate some other religion. Fine, do it. I have no objection to it. If it bothers me, I won't go that day. I mean, but it doesn't bother me. As long as you're not, sacrificing children on an altar or something, I mean, that I'd object to.
Well, yeah, I'd have a problem with it. Well, and then you can go and sample all the really cool latkes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that just I think kind of stinks. I mean, Disney is
important.
Disney has got some issues, including one-ply toilet paper. And I went in and I filed an official complaint, which I do every time I go to the park. I file not a just complaining, because if you just walk up to a cast member and complain, they just turn you off. And when you walk away, they laugh.
Yeah.
So you make them put it in writing on the computer and everything, and you can tell if they're really doing it or not. And because I did that, she filed it, and pushed the button, and so it was officially filed. So if you go to Disneyland and you're stuck using that, I mean, look, the 99-cent store has 2-ply toilet paper.
Exactly.
Come on, Disney. And when you have guests over to your house, do you put 1-ply toilet paper out there for your guests?
No.
We're supposed to be guests at Disneyland, right? Isn't that what Disney always says? That we're guests? Well, I'm sorry, I don't subject my guests to 1-ply toilet paper.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep griping about it until Disney does something about it.
They will.
So
I just
this
got a
is
message.
one reporter's opinion.
That's right.
Do you remember that?
Yes,
One reporter's opinion? Do you know who did it?
I'm trying to think of his name. He's dead now.
He used to be on Channel 11.
Yeah. What was his name?
That's what I'm trying to think.
Oh, okay. We don't know his name. Okay.
No, I knew it. I knew it before I asked you.
Of course. That's always the way it works. I have gotten a message I need to address. Somebody is saying...
George Putnam.
George Putnam. There we go. Somebody's saying that the Journey to Bethlehem story is about Jesus. No, Jesus is a baby. Okay, he's not even born yet. Okay, he's born at the end. It's about Mary. It's about Mary, who all of a sudden is pregnant and has to deal with that with all the people in her community who go, "Oh my God." And Joseph, too, because Joseph is pretty stuck in the situation, too. So, in my opinion, no. The rest of the story is about Jesus. The Bethlehem stuff is about the lady in question. I also wanted to say, if Oh Little Town of Bethlehem isn't about what it is, what are they saying? Oh Little Town Bethlehem, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I'm not positive that was one of the songs, but there were several songs that have a religious basis to them that and I couldn't really pick out the words on everything because they're playing it over a loudspeaker and
Right.
there's people walking around, but and none of the cast members, I don't know anything about that,
Yeah, well, of course.
they've been instructed to keep their mouth shut.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
But
Anyway,
we need to include. We have to do inclusion.
That's
Exclusion
right.
is what causes the kind of upheaval that we're seeing. When you exclude a community, that's when you have problems, especially a community as big, loud, and, let's face it, obnoxious as the Christians can be. And seeing as how I come from a Christian family, I'm talking about myself too, so don't get mad at me. But we need to include everybody. And, the bigots that don't like Jewish people, they're few and far between, and almost everybody thinks they're schmucks. So, if you'll pardon the expression.
Well, the left-wing media, they try to make it out like every white person has a KKK robe in their closet. And being white, I don't know anybody associated with the KKK. Not a single person. And
Nope.
all of our families from Arkansas and Texas, where that's supposedly running rampant. And we lived in Big Bear, which at one time was a KKK stronghold.
Yep.
They used to have parades wearing the white robes going down the street in Big Bear. I've seen photographs of it.
It
But
was back in the 40s. But
I know no one who believes that way. I don't think Melody does either.
in fact, our grandmother threatened to break off her engagement with my grandfather. He wasn't even invited to a Klan meeting. It was something that was somehow connected to somebody who was. And she told him, she said, I won't marry you. So he never went there. They got married. And they left Arkansas because they didn't like the stuff that was going down.
Now,
in
our dad's mother had some archaic attitudes. She refused to have a photograph of Abraham Lincoln in her house. Do you remember that? And that's sad.
Yeah.
She didn't live long enough to get a better attitude. My father, thank goodness, did. Late in life, my father changed his attitude completely about stuff like that. And I'm very glad, because when I was young, he had some attitudes that, thank goodness, my mother did not have. And my mother made sure that I was not soiled by those attitudes.
Well, we were around our grandparents a lot who were real Southern Baptists. They
Yeah, my mom's dad and mother, I'd never heard a curse word out of either one of their mouths.
Well, they invited.
I don't ever recall hearing my dad say any curse words either, to be honest with you.
Well, our grandmother invited our gay cousin and his boyfriend over to Christmas when he got thrown out of his father's house. So, our grandparents were good folks, and
And
they.
that was in a time period where that was frowned upon, let's
Yeah,
say.
exactly. And that's just how they were. They said it's what's inside. It's not who you are. It's what you are. And by that they meant, your quality of being a person, not whatever circumstances of your life. But that's the thing. There's plenty of bad and good people in all communities, and having being in the circles I've been in, I've known plenty of real jerks who were leftists, and I've known plenty of good people who are right wingers. And really, when you start talking to the good people all agree on the basic stuff. And Mark and I agree on more than we disagree on. So I think we really need inclusion in this society. We have to stop resisting everyone and let everybody have a place at the table. Now,
Well, what we really need to do is realize, as both left wing and right wing, that these politicians are trying to separate us and are trying to keep us at odds with each other so that they can blindly rob us. The state of California is bankrupt.
yeah.
They tax the living daylights out of me. I have $300 electric bills, and I don't waste electricity. I have $200 water bills, and the state is broke.
So do
The
I.
state's broke.
I mean,
What is going on?
I have said for years we need to find an area that will define the circumstances of our buying there ahead of time and just start our own state.
Well, we need to get rid of Gavin Newsom, as I'll tell you right now.
We need to get rid of
We need to, all of them.
Yes.
And
because as you see, the stuff coming out about Hunter Biden, there's more stuff coming out about Joe Biden. There's more stuff coming out about Donald Trump. These people are colluding with each other. They're sucking us dry, and they're going to leave us dead on the doorstep. So,
it would be nice if we could think, the Republicans will win and they'll fix everything. They're not going to fix everything. They're going to screw us over the same as the Democrats are doing.
Bingo.
What we need to do is just change stuff.
Exactly. And,
we need to all get together, forget this fighting and arguing and screaming at each other because Donald Trump's a clown and all I gotta tell you is they're all out to do us in.
Yes. including all the
Joe,
people I've supported, all the people I voted for. They're all a bunch of thieves.
if
And
they're politicians, they have done something rotten to get there.
yeah, and
I'll tell
I
you.
have I have come to this conclusion through a lot of pain by reading and talking to people who have no political. These are the intelligence communities. They don't have politics. They are not registered under any party whatsoever. They just are trying to keep our country together. And the one thing they say, we have to include everybody, and we have to stop voting on party lines and start listening and looking at what these people do. And
Yeah, if you look closely at these politicians, you wouldn't loan them $1. I mean, they're criminals, all of them.
they cannot take any of our social security nets away from us. They can't. If they did, our whole society would collapse, and we are the engine, the economic engine of democracy. So they
Well,
can't do it. Now they can
the
threaten, but they can't.
the only reason that Social Security is unstable financially is because the federal government borrowed $30 trillion from the Social Security Fund back in the 70s and never paid it back.
And the whole point of admitting the existence of black budget ops is for Congress and the good people in it to go in and pull our money out of there and put it back into our system so that we can have the stuff that France has. We have enough money to take care of all of our people very well. Gay, straight, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, no matter who they are. They're all Americans, and they all need to be taken care of to the extent that it's not going to harm them or weaken them, but to provide in a way that every democracy should. And okay, I'll shut up now.
Well, the military, who we're supposed to be spending a bunch of money on, is almost bankrupt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You go to a military base, they're falling apart.
Yep.
My wife and I used to go do charity things at the Los Alamitos Naval Air Station, and that place was literally falling apart.
Yep.
I read a thing that there were a couple of ships stuck in the harbor because they didn't have enough money to buy the fuel to run the ship.
Our brother-in-law.
What the hell is going on there?
Well, China owns the harbor. Our brother-in-law was a master sergeant in the Air Force. He worked 2 jobs other than that. One as a McDonald's manager and the other as a Jack-in-the-Box manager. He brought food home, leftovers to his family for them to eat. Are you kidding me? How do we do that to our people?
And when somebody gets wounded in the military, they have to depend on charities to take care of them, buy them artificial legs, get surgery done, and so forth, because the military just once they're done with them, they don't really care what happens to you.
No, you're damaged.
All the old military veterans hospitals are all gone.
Yep.
They tore down all the veterans hospitals.
All the good ones.
So, yeah, there used to be a beautiful. Our father was in Long Beach Veterans Hospital, and they took really good care of him. But that's all gone now. If you get messed up in the military, they're not gonna. I'm sure they'll do some things, but they're not gonna take care of you. You're gonna depend on, if you lose your leg, the military is not gonna give you a first class. They might give you a wooden peg leg, but they're not gonna give you a first class, device so you can get around.
It takes people like Gary Sinise, an actor who has stepped up and put his money where his mouth is.
Well, they had that Wounded Warrior Project, and it's a crying shame that there has to be something called that to take care of our soldiers.
Well, that's his.
They say, oh yeah, the veterans. Thank goodness for the veterans. Well, do something for them.
Yeah, exactly. What about, look at all the homeless, not just homeless veterans, homeless children. What the hell is this about? And we live in this country that is insanely wealthy. Okay.
Now, I got a bone to pick with charity groups. They have all of these charity groups to take care of and feed I don't want to say homeless, but pets that are loose and running the streets. And they spend millions of dollars feeding these animals. Well, why don't they neuter and spay and neuter the animals so they don't have any more little ones?
Oh, there are a lot of organizations that do that. I'm working with one right now with the cats in our neighborhood.
But I'm sorry, but if it comes down to feeding a cat or feeding a little kid that's out on the street, I'm sorry, but we should feed the kids.
Yeah, I agree.
And the people before we spend millions of dollars feeding animals. We should feed children and homeless people.
Absolutely.
I mean, people come first.
Yeah, but at the same time, those of us, to be honest, most of the organizations that take care of pets are not government funded. Most are private citizen funded, and the lady I work with locally, she does it all herself. She pays for everything herself. She works with Jackson Galaxy's group, but it's horrible because there's so many animals out there that are breeding and producing, and they're just being taken down and killed. And quite frankly, everybody complains about that, but what you should be complaining about is your neighbor who throws a cat out in the street.
Yeah.
The shelters, animal shelters, have to do what they have to do. And it's horrible.
Well, they have no choice.
They don't have a choice. So let's not, complain about the dog catcher. Let's complain about the dog. Let her go. Let her go. Yeah. But anyway.
Yep. But anyway. Okay, well, one other thing we were going to discuss is the We See Dead People section of the show.
We See Dead People, yeah.
So, December the 10th, we lost Shirley Ann Field. She was 87, not in this picture. I always try to put a good-looking picture of the person. She was an English actress. She was in 3 pretty well-known films: The Entertainer, The Damned, and Alfie. You know, what's it all about, Alfie?
Yep. She was
and that was on.
Was a global actress, born in England.
All right, now on December the 11th, we lost 2 people. One Melody's going to tell you about, and that is this gentleman.
That's Andre Braugher, who was a brilliant actor. He was just amazing. He died of lung cancer at the age of 61. He had stopped smoking about 10 years ago, about the time he had a gastric bypass to lose a lot of weight. And unfortunately, that he's already done the damage that one does. And 10 years is, I guess, not a long time for the genes to catch up with things. But he was a fine actor. He won Emmys. He's been nominated for them. He was originally from Chicago, and he passed away in Los Angeles. And I, for one, will miss him. He was always a great presence in whatever series he was in.
And yesterday was the anniversary of the death of Walt Disney. So, I don't have a picture of Walt, but everybody knows what
everybody
Walt
knows what Walt Disney looks like.
Now, also on December the 11th, we lost Camden Toy. Now, I had actually met this gentleman at a science fiction convention some time back. He was an American actor. He was in a film that I never saw called The Bay. He was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Chrome Skull, and Laid to Rest 2, which was the sequel to Laid to Rest 1, which I never saw either. So, but anyway, he was very nice at the convention that I met him at.
Well,
all right.
Yes.
Now, the next person I'm going to show you, like the Kardashians are famous for being famous. This gentleman was famous for being old. And I couldn't find a picture of him when he was young because they didn't have cameras back then. So this is Fusa Katsumi. And this picture, believe it or not, was 6 years before he passed away. And this was the best picture I could find of him. He passed away December the 12th at the age of 116. And he was the second oldest living person. There's another Japanese lady who is 117 and still alive. I don't have her name, though.
There are all kinds of people who live to be over 100, so eat your veggies and ignore most of the medical advice you get on YouTube.
Now, this next one is rather sad because he died young of a car accident, unfortunately. And his name was Kenny DeForest. He was a comedian. I'm not familiar with him. He was 37 years old, which is really sad.
Way too young.
Yep. Now, December the 14th, we lost someone that I was very familiar with and watched many, many, many times. And that was George McGinnis, was a Hall of Fame NBA basketball player for several teams, and an excellent ball player. Sad to see. We're losing a lot of the old-time NBA ball players, unfortunately.
Yep.
And now this next gentleman, my sister was very surprised that he lived to be as old as he was because of his occupation. And this was Colin Burgess. He was the drummer for AC/DC, among other bands, and he lived to be 77 years old and passed away on December the 16th, which is today. So earlier today he passed away.
Understand that in rock and roll singer years, this is roughly up there, 125, something like that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of those. There's a lot of them drummers that don't live to be very old.
I honest to God, if somebody came up with Paul and Ringo are sucking up all the life years.
You sure it's not Keith Richards?
Yeah, Keith Richards also. Keith Richards, and on our side, Willie Nelson. They're all just sort of sucking up the life.
You must have.
Yes,
You must have seen that Facebook post.
Yeah, he's right.
Said you guys. It was a joke. It said you guys, you young people, need to think about what kind of world you're going to leave for me and Keith Richards. That's what the post said.
Because Willie is 90. You know how many? Willie is 90 years old.
I saw him perform in 1983 at something called the US Festival, which was a huge outdoor concert held in Glen Ellen, I think, Regional Park.
Oh, yeah.
And Glen Helen, I think, is something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, out Riverside Way out there. And that was a great concert. It had just about everybody but Johnny Cash.
Aww.
Why Johnny Cash didn't go, I don't know. But and Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, the new writers of the Purple Sage, Emmylou Harris, just tons of country western stars. The weekend before, they had rock bands. They had Metallica, Led Zeppelin, all the big rock bands of the era were there the week before. The week before, they had like 200,000 people. The weekend I was there were 60,000. But they hadn't cleaned out the portable toilets from the previous weekend. So guess what that place smelled like?
Oh, my God. Were they able to shepherd up all of these country singers and protect them against the onslaught? Because, only Willie had ever smoked the demon weed.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, they had Ricky Skaggs. I can't. It's been too long. I can't remember everybody that was there, but there was a lot of good people there. And they also had Steve Wozniak came out and talked, and because he's the one that paid for the US Festival. You are familiar with Steve Wozniak? Okay.
Yeah, of course.
He was the co. I thought so. He was the co-founder of Apple Computers with Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Wozniak actually is the one that built the Apple One.
He was the designer of the Apple One, yeah.
Yeah. So after that, he didn't really do too awful much for the company, but he stayed on the payroll, so he got rich. And now one other thing about the US Festival is if you recall the Olympics in, I think it was in '84.
Yes.
Okay. So. It was held at the LA Convention Center.
Right.
Not conventions, Coliseum. It was held at the LA Coliseum. And one of the things they did is they had this UFO suspended from a helicopter fly over the stadium. It looked very realistic. They had this black thing underneath the helicopter so you couldn't see it. And they had the music timed to the rotor of the helicopter so you couldn't hear the helicopter. And they flew that same UFO that they used in the Olympics. They flew it over the US Festival. And it was real cool. So anybody that went to the US Festival, you got a preview of the Olympics.
There you go.
That was pretty neat.
I'd like to bring up the topic of my taking over Unquiet Stars, which is the podcast that Colin Williams and Morgan Gottfried, I think it's his last name, they hosted, and as they are getting unmarried. Yeah. They've decided to give up their podcast. They approached me initially about it, and I said no, because I couldn't see myself doing this, However, it's audio, which means I won't have to be on screen. And it's about, theirs was about UFOs. Mine is, I'm going to broaden the topic into high strangeness, which means pretty much everything weird. And also, since it has a pretty good base to it, that'll help me send some more viewers our way, the fan club. So
cool.
Yeah. So it'll all work out together. It's also only going to be they've been doing it twice a month, I think, because So I may go on to do it 4 times a month. I don't know, but that's what that's all about. And the
download Audacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh,
unless you want to spend some money and get Adobe Creative Cloud or whatever they call it now.
God, no. I'm doing Audacity. Yeah. I have to have Audacity, by God. So anyway, that's what we'll be doing. Next week, I'm in talks with a gentleman who wrote a famous song for those of us who were born on Christmas or near Christmas. And there are many, many people who were. So I won't say his name, so I won't make him feel beholden. But it's a possibility.
William Holden?
No, beholden, not William Holden. No, Poppy and William Holden right now are up there talking fishing. You know they are. But we talked last time.
Our grandfather was in a movie with William Holden.
Yeah, he's in a scene with William Holden.
What was the name of the movie? Double Indemnity or?
No,
Executive Suite.
Yeah.
Executive Suite.
And if you look for the scene in the factory where Holden's talking to some worker who is working on a large machine, that man is our grandfather. So that's somehow our family has a habit of doing that. That, and he worked with what was his name? Alfalfa.
Alfalfa.
Yeah, but his real name was Schweitzer, I believe his last name was.
Yeah.
And also they had Jimmy Hetfield living across the street. Poppy somehow and Nanny were.
Well, when we were kids, our mother knew what was his name? It was in Bewitched.
Oh, yeah.
George Tobias.
Yes, Tobias. Yeah.
George Tobias. He was in tons of old gangster movies, but what he's probably most famous for is playing Abner, the nosy neighbor's husband, who's always sitting there reading the newspaper on Bewitched. And he lived close by us in Big Bear, and that's how our mother met him, got to know him. Now, also living up there, although we never got to meet him, was Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. He lived up in Big Bear.
A lot of people live in Big Bear. Shirley Jones and Marty Ingalls lived in Big Bear. There are all kinds of people living up there. But I was never terribly impressed by Big Bear.
It's changed a lot. I don't know when the last time you went up there was, but
not long ago.
Yeah, it has changed a lot.
It's a big
the downtown section of Big Bear Lake. Big Bear Lake is what everybody thinks of as Big Bear, and I'm not talking about the lake, the city of Big Bear Lake. Yeah. That's the one that has Pine Knot Boulevard and everything. That's where that big resort is now. They tore down the Safeway and a bunch of the stores and built a big resort right there. So when we lived up there, there was a horse stable up there where the big shopping center is now. And the drive-in movie theater. Remember the drive-in movie theater? Oh, yeah. It was only open like 2 months a year because, nobody's going to sit in the car in the snow and watch the movies.
Let me tell you, the best hamburger I've ever had in my life was at the A&W in Big Bear.
And there was a guy up there who had a Tucker. I don't know if you remember.
A Tucker?
But he used a Tucker, the car.
Oh, yeah, the car, yeah.
He had a Tucker. And they only built 49 of them, so there's not very many of those around. And he would only bring it out during the summer on Saturdays, and he'd bring it to A&W. And we saw it a couple of times. My mom liked the car, so my mom had a GTO. By the time we lived in Big Bear, the GTO was kind of on its last legs, but she had a 66 GTO.
It was still going fast enough that she ran it off the road one time.
Probably more than one time.
Yeah, well, yeah. But the one time I remember, it's the one time I remember. But anyway, I don't recommend Big Bear. However, like Arrowhead is nice. That's where Ben and Mara were born. Were married. Were born. That's good. I must tell everybody, Peanut is much better. He still has a little droopy face, but that's normal with the illness he had. So he's coming back. He was all over the cake I brought up. I made what Penny insists on calling a butt cake. It's actually a bundt cake. But
that's all right.
Yeah, they all we all had a nice dinner last Sunday. And so they're doing great. And Kenny is, of course, 100%. And I need to ask about my grandniece and grandnephew. How are they doing? Doing good. Okay. I'm glad to hear.
Yep.
And my
Yep,
niece, of course, is a saint. So. Anyway, so we have, I think, about 5 minutes.
4 minutes and 40 seconds.
Okay.
Now, do you see the timer?
Yeah, I can see the timer now.
Okay, I didn't know if you got the timer.
Yeah, they have somehow reconfigured things so that I can see the timer.
Cool.
I did complain about it. I doubt that's connected, though.
I doubt if they fixed it because you complained.
Like I'm pretty sure you won't see 2-ply toilet paper in the bathroom at Disneyland. But
I doubt very seriously, but I'm going to keep complaining.
Good. You know what I didn't like about Disneyland when we went? And I love Disneyland. That visual optical thing they did with Main Street. If you look at it.
What do you mean?
They've done an optical procedure with Main Street where they've taken, they took out a lot of the old businesses that were in there.
Yeah, well, that's been constant. They change them all the time.
But they also have I don't know how they're doing it, but somehow create the effect that it's longer than it is.
Oh, that's been that way all along. They use what's called forced perspective.
Yeah, I know what forced perspective is, but
that's
it seems
how
to me
Main Street was built.
Yeah. It seems to me they've gone, either that or I'm just old enough now that I'm noticing it, but it really was not. It made me miss my old experience, whether or not that was endemic to my own age and perceptions at the time, or whether it's, in reality because of changes. It really made me miss the old Main Street.
Well, I miss the old park altogether, stuff that they used to have. They don't, they used to come every night and touch up the paint.
Yeah.
Back when Walt was still alive, that was something that Walt insisted upon, because he wanted the park to look every morning as if it just opened the day before.
Brand new.
And it doesn't look that way anymore. Nope. The paint is all scratched. Rides have parts broken off of them and they never get fixed. And you know what concerns me about that is if they're not doing that maintenance, are they doing ride maintenance? Are they repairing all the little wheels that keep the car on the track? Are they making sure those all are correct?
Well,
so that worries me.
What is the story with Space Mountain? Are they closing it?
Oh no, it may be refurbished, but during the winter they do the refurbishing of rides. Right. That's a common practice. They try not to do it during the summer because they have such a large flow of people through there. So they try not to shut down anything that they don't have to. Like the Haunted Mansion. The Haunted Mansion is closing for a year.
Right.
They're building a new gift shop. Disney has not admitted to it. But I have it on good authority that it's closing for a year. Yeah. And they're building a new gift shop to the right of the Haunted Mansion. and they're going to do a lot of maintenance that had, like the road. I rode the ride today because I wanted to ride the holiday overlay. So I rode it today, and the ride broke down 6 times while I was on it.
God.
It stopped. And now, that doesn't always mean it's broken down, but I'm sure at least a couple of those were mechanical problems.
Yeah.
If somebody handicapped is getting on the ride, they stop the conveyor belt and allowed, so that stops everything in the ride. They can't stop one section without stopping everything because they're all connected. So if somebody gets on like that has trouble walking and jumping on the ride, in order to meet the ADA requirements, they have to allow people to get on the ride, which is good. I mean, it's good that they do that, but that may have been what caused it. Okay, we're a minute over, so I think we're going to have to wrap things up.
All right.
Melody?
Happy birthday to everybody with a birthday this week, because ain't nobody else going to say it to you. So I will. And
remember, Melody's birthday is on Christmas Day, so you all have to tell Melody happy birthday. And send her a big, expensive present.
Oh, yeah, you can do that. Anyway, you guys have a great week. We will see you. Well, we'll be recorded again next week. But that's sort of what you would normally expect. So, have a great week. Because
next week is going to be that's the Christmas Eve show, right? Next week?
Yeah.
Okay, so we will have a show for you that will air Christmas Eve.
We will. So.
Yep. So, take care and enjoy your week, and we shall see you again.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Remember that? They used to have Batman 2 times a week. It was so popular.
Yep.
Take care. Bye-bye.